podcast. My name is Joe. I'm here with Zephram. Today we're going to talk about Pixar movies. And I think this is an important distinction, right? Because Disney does a lot of animation.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Disney now owns Pixar.
Yeah.
Pixar does its own thing.
Yeah.
And they still act basically independently.
People our age will say Pixar movie and they just mean 3D animated movie across the board. They think Shrek and Frozen are all Pixar movies. They are not. There are a lot of different animation studios out there. There's Disney Animation, which did Tangled, which did Frozen.
Yeah.
There's DreamWorks, which did Shrek and other stuff. There's Blue Sky,
Blue Sky,
which did Rio and random things.
Yeah.
I think aren't they defunct now?
I think so. I would hope so.
Who's the one that did?
Because all the Blue Macaws died.
Who's the one that did all the Minion movies? Is that Illumination?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they suck. I hate them. And then there's there's Sony, who did the Emoji movies. God bless them. So anyway, we're talking about explicitly Pixar Animation Studio movies.
And today we're gonna rank our Pixar movies. They have 23 titles.
Yeah, 23 feature films.
Yes. Which I was thinking this when we were ranking. A lot of these are such marginal increases in quality because Pixar has been on a roll since they started.
Since 1995, baby. They've been hitting them out of the park every time.
I know, man. And there are very few exceptions.
Almost every time, yeah. So before we get started, I was thinking, I had this idea. You know how Dora, on Dora the Explorer, she asks the audience questions and she gives you a chance to respond so you feel like you're there in the room. You know, she'll turn to you and say, "Where's the mountain?" And you'll say, "Behind you, idiot." So I figured this would be a good chance to get our audience involved. Ready?
Okay.
All right. So, hey, if you're listening to this, say out loud, wherever you are, in your car, walking to class with AirPods in, you know, I don't care if people look at you crazy. What's the best Pixar movie? Go ahead.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, what was that? I can't hear you. Say it again. What's the best Pixar movie? You're wrong. If you use more than one syllable, you're wrong. Okay? So, I hope you feel that you are now included in this show because we're going to go ahead and give you our lists, which differ, but I bet they're probably pretty similar in the top 5 area. So
I think so, probably. I haven't looked at your list.
I'm looking at your list now. There's some overlap. So okay, do we want to go from the bottom up or the top down?
I will. Okay, so before we start, I would like to say there are 4 movies on my list I cannot rank. I have not seen them.
Yeah.
I have only heard other people's opinions.
I have 2.
And I have watched the cinema sins for them. That's the only qualification I can give.
That's like how Noah said he'd seen Lost because he watched Lost in 3 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
That's stupid. To be fair, I only watched the first 4 seasons.
Well,
I want to finish it.
Yeah, you should, and then we'll do an episode because it's one of the best TV shows of all time.
I also watched the first 4 seasons in 1 week, so I had given myself a break, and I never picked it back up. So I need to finish it. Right. Okay. So the 4 movies that I cannot rank are Cars 2 and 3, Good Dinosaur, and Toy Story 4. What I will say about Toy Story 4 and Good Dinosaur both, because I've seen trailers, I've seen the CinemaSins, I've seen clips. They are so good at animation. It blows my mind how good they are at it. And we'll talk about Soul in a minute. The animation in that movie, it's as I get it, they're all cartoon characters, but as they animated that movie as if all the cartoon characters were as realistic as they could be.
It's like a couple years ago when Unreal Engine 4 came out and they did that tech demo of the guy just walking through a house and through the yard, and it looked like a video, it looked like real life.
Yes,
crazy.
It's kind of insane. The Good Dinosaur, there's tons of landscape shots and rivers flowing in the mountains. I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks insane. That looks really good.
Speaking of animated dinosaur movies, remind me at the end
to talk about We're Back.
No, to talk about, I think it was just called Dinosaur. It's not a Pixar movie.
Disney movie.
Yeah. It was from 2000.
Where all the dinosaurs have human faces.
Yes, and the meteor hits.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about that at the end.
That movie's like a fever dream.
Yeah, so we'll
It's
not Pixar, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to say...
Let's just start from the top.
From the top?
Well,
I was going
no.
to say from the bottom.
Okay, that works.
All right. My bottom, my last one.
The two that I haven't seen that I can't rank is Cars 3 and Good Dinosaur. So I've seen Cars 2 and Toy Story 4, so I can talk a little about those.
Okay, cool. The last movie on my list is Cars. Now, here's the thing.
Wow.
I enjoy Cars. I think it's a fine movie. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch these on the spot. My last movie is Finding Dory.
Okay, I will. Yeah, that's solid. That's my. Yeah.
Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it's the same thing with Monsters University, which I'll mention in a minute. It felt like a rehashing of just nostalgia and cash grab. I get it. It's fun.
You'll notice on my list, most of the sequels, especially the ones that came like over a decade later, are very close to the bottom of my list. They just don't do anything for me. I don't want to see this rehashed. I want a new movie. I want Soul or, anyway. So I agree with you there.
So
the bottom of my list is Cars 2. You haven't seen it, but it just sucks. I haven't seen it since the first time I saw it, which was when it came out a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, wow, I do not like this.
It looked like it sucked.
And so I never saw the third one. Cars in itself is already one of the weaker franchises within Pixar. It's just not that good. But it is their moneymaker. They sell so many toys.
That's true. It's a weird premise for a movie overall. I think it's just kind of a bizarre premise.
Are we going to talk about the Pixar theory and how they all fit together?
No, because there's like 10,000 other videos.
There's like 1,000 podcasts about that.
Yeah,
what's that one YouTube channel that just talks about Pixar? Super Carlin Brothers. You ever watch them?
No, I thought you were talking about Screen Rant.
They're a pretty big channel, and I'm pretty sure they just talk about Pixar. Like their set,
I think I know you're talking about.
Full of the balls, the rubber balls. The star on it.
Never mind. Yeah.
Weird. There's niches out there for everyone. Okay.
Okay, so I mentioned Cars. Finding Dory is my last, but Cars is my second.
Since you mentioned Finding Dory, I'll go ahead and say it's my second to last.
Okay.
It's the same thing. I didn't care about it.
Yeah.
Nothing of it was memorable except for
there
was a thing with Octopus Inc. as they were escaping an aquarium, and I remember that.
I thought it was a fun movie, but I definitely felt like it was appealing to... I don't know. I really don't know.
I felt like it was trying too hard to appeal to me. Someone who was nostalgic about the first movie.
Yeah, which the first movie is incredible.
Yeah, it's toward the top of my list.
Yeah, me too. I just think it didn't have to be messed with. No. I got the premise. I think it was something that we could have left untouched.
And now that Ellen sucks,
true. I don't know. People in Hollywood suck.
Yeah. Big surprise.
So, my bottom two, Finding Dory, Cars. My third to last, Monsters University. Same thing with Finding Dory. It kind of felt like a cash grab, but I like Monsters, Inc. a lot, and I thought it was at least a little more interesting of a premise than Finding Dory.
Yeah.
It was like with Finding Nemo, it was...
I'll give it to you.
I lost my son, and then Finding Dory was like, I lost everything. Oh, wait, I have parents. I should find my parents. The same movie.
It's just like, okay.
With Finding... Or Monsters University, it was like, this is how we met.
It was a little more clever. I feel like a prequel, you get more out of a prequel with these kind of movies than you do with a traditional sequel, because you're gonna, it's not just like, you like these characters, well, here's them in a new situation. It's like playing more into what the original movie was, which I guess you could say is more of a nostalgia grab.
Yeah.
But I just think it works better because I actually care about the characters.
I agree.
And the situation they're in.
What's your third to last?
Third to last, Toy Story 4. And I will say this about Toy Story 4.
Okay.
I thought it was a great movie. I really liked it. I mean, I didn't even want to watch it. I didn't watch it when it came out. And then once I watched it, I was like, okay, it made me cry. It was heartfelt. Yeah. It was a good movie, and the animation was insane. But it was just a good movie.
Yeah.
The reason it is so low on my list is not based on quality or how much I liked it insular to itself. The reason it's so low is because it should not exist. It just shouldn't exist as a film. Toy Story 3 ended the franchise perfectly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can tell that it was meant to end the franchise. It bookends it with the clouds. You know what I mean? Like Toy Story 3, Toy Story 1 opens with clouds.
The wallpaper.
And then Toy Story 3 ends on clouds, except now it's real clouds instead of the wallpaper because the toys have moved out. Andy's moved on to the real world. Everything about that is a perfect ending.
I agree.
And you shouldn't mess with it. And when you made Toy Story 4, just made it feel messier. It just made me feel like, okay, now I don't have a definitive answer. Toy Story 5 is planned, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, but I think I read that. So it's just, it makes me feel less closure. I felt so much closure with Toy Story 3, and I feel like that's a little bit of that's taken from me. That being said, it was a really good movie. It concluded Woody's arc.
Okay.
Which I think was a good move, I guess. If you're going to make Toy Story 4, you got to do that. Toy Story 3 completes Andy's arc.
Yeah.
But it doesn't complete Woody and Buzz's arc. And that's what Toy Story 4 does. So I get that. But I still would have preferred the neatness of ending after 3. So
yes. And on that, I'm going to be real. I don't think Buzz and Woody's arc needed to be completed.
No.
They're toys.
You are a toy. Yeah, so
you ended Toy Story 3 with Andy giving all of his toys to Bonnie. And it was like, okay, now this whole new generation gets to experience all the joy that I had with my toys.
Yeah.
I've grown up now. He says goodbye to him. That movie is so good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. It's actually kind of low on my list. But I still... Once we get past the next, the next movie or two, we'll be in marginal increase land.
Yeah.
Everything else is like, okay, they're all incredible. Substantially compared to the last bottom 4.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you can barely tell a difference at this point. They're all incredible masterpieces. But these last 4 are kind of like, for me, it's like, they're not the strongest links in the chain.
Yeah.
They're not bad movies, I say objectively, but they're not great compared to the masterpieces that Pixar tends to create.
Okay.
The next one on my list is Onward.
Okay.
Not that it was a bad movie. I really enjoyed it. And you had brought up this critique when we had watched it. The whole fantasy in modern day real life kind of thing.
It's just overdone, I think. Yeah.
It was fine though. I liked it. It was all right. Yeah.
Yeah. So above Toy Story 4 for me is Monsters University. Same thing. I liked it a lot better than Finding Dory.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was solid.
Yeah.
But I could have done without it. That's why it's so low on this list. I don't have much to say about it. It was good, but I could have done without it. And then right above that is Onward. So Onward for me, 2 Pixar movies came out in the last year, and that's Onward and Soul. Soul I really liked. Onward I liked, but it just didn't stand out to me. The premise I think is overdone. It was bright.
Yeah.
But it was good. It still made me cry. They all do. Every movie makes me cry. So
yeah.
But
I'm a baby when it comes to movies.
Yeah. So Onward was pretty good. It's okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Next, Bug's Life.
Okay.
Now we're getting into marginal increase land. It's been a long time since I've seen Bug's Life. It's been a very long time, probably since middle school.
Same, yeah, at least middle school.
I remember liking the movie a lot.
Yeah.
That's really the only critique I can give it. That's why, I don't know. I remember loving it as a kid. I've seen, again, I love CinemaSins. I've seen their video on it. I'll watch a video every now and then about Pixar, and they'll talk about it. I'm like, oh man, that movie was really good. I like the premise of it. It seems really interesting. And I really like what Pixar did early on with their animations, is where they would take the voice bloopers and they would animate them.
Yes,
I thought
I
that
remember
was so
that.
cool.
And I remember thinking as a kid, I didn't understand it. I was
me too.
Did they plan these bloopers? I don't get it.
I had the same thought when I was a kid.
What I love about Bug's Life is it's a little higher on my list. It was one of those original 4 Pixar movies. The first 4 John Lasseter ones where they were just like, hey, let's anthropomorphize, insert thing here, and see what we can animate. And I liked it. I liked the idea of this whole world existing beneath our feet that we just don't see.
And I think it's fascinating. I think it's been too long for me to give it a really good critique. And,
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to move a little faster if we're gonna.
Yeah, we're both gonna have to move.
Okay,
fast.
so above Onward for me, you're gonna hate that this is so low on my list, but Coco. Okay. I liked it. It was good, but it didn't stand out for me. I think everything that was good about Coco, Soul did better. It's because it's basically the same plot. It's afterlife with a specific ethnic genre of music. So there were similarities there for me, and once I saw Soul, I thought, oh, well, I'll just watch that. I mean, I liked Coco. It was really good.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to have to, on the spot, move these around a little. So I edited mine a little bit just now. Like I said, we're in marginal increase land. So the next few, I'm going to just I kind of rattled it off in sections, right? So I have like my number one, like the top tier, and then the second tier, the third tier. The last section is what I just went over. The last few, like the bottom tier, I'm going to say Coco and Soul, Toy Story 2 and 3. Again, we're in marginal increase land.
It's my favorite country.
It's a beautiful country. They have a great GDP.
Stupid.
I love all of these movies. They're all...
From here on out, it's good stuff.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah, I
agree.
It's
top tier material. And they're low on the list, but
because we have to rank them in comparison to each other.
Yes.
Which is how our whole system works.
But it's
By the way, we haven't been given these numbers.
You're right. We don't have time. We don't have time for this. It's like, okay, this gold's a little bit dirty than the other gold that I also have.
Still
like,
gold.
It's all just perfect. So my last chunk, the bottom chunk above the ones I just talked about, Soul, Coco, Toy Story 2 and 3.
Yeah. So, I just talked about Coco. Yeah, again, from here on out, everything's great. You said dirty gold, whatever. It's, makeup on a pig, but I love bacon. So, yeah. Amen. All right, next on my list, above Coco is Brave. I've only seen it once. I don't remember it very well. I remember liking it. That's my review.
I forgot to mention Brave.
Is it not?
I'm bad at this.
But it'll be probably higher for you, right?
I'm going to put it in the 3. I'm going to put it in right at the bottom of that 3.
Oh, 3 tier?
Yes, it is on the bottom of those 3 tier. Coco, Soul, Toy Story 2 and 3, right? Those are like, those are great movies. And then Brave right underneath those. But above the first 4 I mentioned. I liked Brave a lot. I feel like
you've probably seen it more than any other Pixar movie.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I have a good handle on that movie. This is because I didn't have internet for quite a few months of living in the house I live in now, so we had a lot of movies to watch from, and I like Brave. I thought it was a solid movie just to keep watching, so that's where I stand on that. It's a really good movie. I think it's underrated, personally, but I get people's critique of it. It's kind of an interesting one.
So, speaking of sequels, above Brave for me is Incredibles 2. And I know you might have put it higher.
I did.
I loved Incredibles 2.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I thought it was as good as they could do to make a sequel to that movie.
I agree.
Like they could not have done better.
Yeah.
But again, it just doesn't interest me as much as something new. It just it just doesn't do it for me. It's just not my thing. So, but you're probably going to call me a hypocrite later when I rank Toy Story 2 really high. But this is subjective, so you can get off my back about that.
Yes, being subjective is tight.
Nice reference. It's the second time we've mentioned Scream. Yeah. Okay, what's next for you?
Okay, so my next chunk, right, the number 2, is 3 movies. Incredibles 2, Ratatouille, Inside Out. That's like the next, okay, this is a little bit above the ones I just mentioned.
I should have tiered mine, because mine are just a list.
I liked Ratatouille, although we had just talked about this in the last episode.
The cliffhanger. We left the last episode on a cliffhanger.
Here's the answer to the cliffhanger, right? Okay, I forget the head chef's name of the restaurant, right? Can you imagine? This guy's probably in his 40s, devoting your life, decades of work in the culinary field, working at a 5-star restaurant, whatever the star system they have in that movie, and then some douchebag that just washes dishes comes in with a rat on his head, and he's like, I'm gonna make food. Oh, it tastes really good. Okay, I'm not saying that he didn't make good food in this imaginary universe. You know how upset I would be if I ran a restaurant and some bum came off the street and was like, hey, guess what? I make the best lasagna that you've ever tasted, and I use rats to do it. I would say, get off. Leave, please. Die. I don't care where you go. Leave me.
You would stutter that much?
I would. It would just baffle me so hard. First of all, Remy is by far is so easily to tell that he is schizophrenic. I just can't rant more about this rat. This stupid rat.
He's the villain of the movie.
He is the villain of the movie. Not only is he schizophrenic, he uses his schizophrenia to kidnap 2 men and ruin an industry.
Yes, I agree with everything you said.
But I like the movie a lot.
Yes. Have we talked about... is that where it is on your list, Ratatouille?
It's in tier 2.
Here? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about Ratatouille. Mine's a little higher. Oh, mine's a lot higher.
We'll
Wow.
go back over the rankings when we finish.
Okay, so, but yeah, Ratatouille, I agree. It's great. What I love about it is that it is really a... I mean, the whole movie's about critics and criticism.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a jab at critics. You know?
The main villain
is
Ego.
literally a critic.
His name is
Ego.
Right?
Yeah. No, wait. Is it? Okay, whatever. Don't look it up. Pretend we're right. And he... Anyway, the main villain's a critic, and the whole point of it is that he has a change of heart and realizes, oh, I'm being too harsh because I need to just judge it based on merit and not all these stupid preconceived notions I have because I'm a stupid critic, and critics are stupid. And there's a great line in there that I have quoted before. It is Ego. Okay, good. That I don't remember what it is. But that's the point of the movie, and it's like daring critics to give this movie a bad review, you know, to prove their point. I just love it. Because critics, a lot of the time, are stupid.
Yeah.
And wrong.
Critics are dumb.
So, Ratatouille, good. Next, above Incredibles 2 for me is Cars, the original Cars.
Yeah.
I just like, it's, you know, I think it's of all the original Pixar movies, it's probably one of the weakest, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's solid. I get nostalgic for it because it's, you know, I watched it a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's got that Randy Newman soundtrack, so that's good stuff.
I remember seeing it in theaters, so I have those nostalgic memories. So in my tier 2 is Incredibles 2, Ratatouille, Inside Out. Inside Out I loved. I think Pete Docters is such a brilliant director.
He's the best they have, for sure.
I think for sure. Pete Docters, John Lasseter, Brad Bird. I think that's like the top 3 for sure. But
John
that's only
Lasseter's
because
gone now.
You're right.
He's disgraced.
Touche. Inside Out was great.
Agree.
I think Pete Docters has such a knack for picking out storylines and ideas for exposing and diving into aspects of people and some of the things they struggle with. With Inside Out, it was like emotions. Like, obviously, it's about emotions.
Yeah.
But
If I were Anton Ego, I would say that Pete Docter has a knack for extrapolating stories and applying them to the human condition. But I'm not, so I won't say that. I'll just say he makes me cry. Every time.
touche. I agree. Pete Docters does make me cry every time I watch one of his movies. But I think he definitely challenges the audience every time he creates a movie. Every time he directs a movie, he's like, hey, check out this aspect of people that we haven't really focused on. Look how difficult that is. It opens up dialogue. I think it's brilliant. I think he's so good. Incredibles 2, I loved. And it's kind of low on the list considering there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more movies ahead of this.
I need to catch up.
I'm just doing mine by tiers. Incredibles 2, I thought, again, like you had said, it's the best they could have done with what they had after however many years of hiatus. I just thought it was so much fun. I liked the dynamic switch. The absent dad now has to tend to his family. Like, he has to play the active father role now that the mother is gone and now doing her superhero thing. The Bob Odenkirk was a fun character, like his main character. The business mogul that was trying to put this whole thing together.
That was Bob Odenkirk?
That was Bob Odenkirk.
The more you know.
There's one scene in this movie. Every time I watch it, I'm like, this is so cool. It's Elastigirl. She's like, oh, the screen slaver is like putting out a broadcast, and it's completely silent except for his broadcast, and she is like Spider-Man slinging and flying through the city trying to find him in like noir metropolis darkness. I thought that was so cool. That scene makes me go, that's so neat every time I watch it.
Yeah.
That's my tier 2, is Incredibles 2, Ratatouille, Inside Out.
Okay, well, let me catch up, and we'll both do our tier 1s at the same time. So I'll just go really quickly. Cars. Above Cars is A Bug's Life. We have already talked about it. Bug's Life. Above that is Toy Story 3. Already talked about it. Above that is Inside Out, which we haven't talked about.
Correct.
But it's in your tier 1, correct?
Inside Out?
Inside Out.
I just talked about it a little bit, about Pete Doctors.
Oh, right. Okay, gotcha. Oh, right. So, yeah, Inside Out's there. Good movie. That's all I'll say. Above Inside Out, Soul, Pete Docter, great movie. We've done a whole episode on it. Above that, Finding Nemo. Do you want to talk about the original Finding Nemo a little bit, besides what we've already said?
Yes, it is in my tier 1.
Oh, we'll get there. Okay. Above that, Toy Story 2. Is that in your tier 1? Or
It's
did we
in
already
my
mention
tier
it?
3.
Okay, let's talk about Toy Story 2, because we haven't. Just really briefly.
Yeah.
I love Toy Story 2, and I waffle back and forth often over which I like better.
Yeah.
Toy Story or Toy Story 2. I think I do like the original better, just for a few different reasons. But Toy Story 2, I think, is the best sequel Pixar's ever done, easily. I mean, I don't think you can get better than Toy Story 2, and I think that it has a perfect balance of developing the characters you have and then introducing new characters, like,
Yeah.
Oh, what's her name? She's
Yeah.
the girl, the redhead cowboy girl, Jessie. Gosh.
Jessie.
Okay. Yes. So that's a little blurb. That's all I have to say about it.
I think this brings up we talked about this, I think, really early on in the podcast, is the difference between best, greatest, and favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Toy Story 2 and 3 are objectively better sequels than Incredibles 2.
Right.
However, I enjoy Incredibles
Personally,
2 more,
yes.
as a favorite.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay. Toy Story 3 I thought was great. Toy Story 3 I thought was incredible. I thought they were both just like, man, Toy Story 1 was awesome. There's a second one. Wow, that was even better.
Yeah.
Or really good, I guess.
Yeah.
Toy Story 1's in my top tier.
Yeah.
The other two aren't. Wow, this is also really good. Oh, there's a third one? That was so fantastic. What a way to end it.
Yeah.
There's a Toy Story 4. I didn't see it. No comment.
Yeah. Okay, we're up. I just mentioned Toy Story 2, so we are up to my top 5. No,
Okay.
top 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
I'm
where
at
am I?
my top 6 as well.
Okay, cool. So this is our top tiers. These are the best of the best, perfect movies
By our opinion.
by our personal
Which is
opinion.
objective.
Are,
Both
but
of them.
also subject to change. Okay. I almost said something about Toy Story, but we're not there yet. All right. What's your number 6?
Wall-E.
The Incredibles. Wait, what's your number 5?
Toy Story.
Okay, never mind. So they're not. Okay, my number 5 is Wall-E. So
Okay.
we can talk about Wall-E. The Incredibles is my number 6, and then above that, just barely, is Wall-E. I mean, they're pretty close for me. Both of those I need to rewatch because it's been a while. But I think The Incredibles is not only one of the best Pixar movies, it's one of the best superhero films of all time.
Yes, I agree.
Easily. It's better, I think, hot take, The Incredibles is better than any MCU movie.
I agree.
Any single one of them.
I agree.
All the way back to Iron Man 1. The Incredibles is better.
Absolutely.
Better than Endgame. Mm-hmm. There we go. Good. Glad we're on the same page.
Yes, Wall-E. I loved it. I watched it not too long ago. It's in my recent memory. I thought it was just an awesome movie. I loved it.
I love
so
the
much.
themes it dealt with of
And-
like the really
Yes.
dark
Of just
world
loneliness,
that it,
of like,
and picture that it paints of the future of Earth
Yes.
and humanity for a kids movie. It was awesome.
Which brings up a whole nother thing, right? What by and large the company that's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it's in Up, right? They're this company that owns a lot of stuff. Oh, now they own spaceships and they own humanity. Is Disney? They've been hinting at it. They're a monster.
Yes.
Drop the
by and
mouse.
large is Disney.
Is Disney and the mouse?
They're
will
the ones that will
own
take
you.
us there.
Wall-E's a great movie.
Love
the
Wall-E.
next one, my number 5 is Toy Story.
Okay.
I
This
think
is my number 3. So that's my top 3 Pixar movies.
Okay.
I won't say them yet, but
Yeah.
I will say my top 3 Pixar
I'll
movies
get up to-
are the ones that I like connect with on a personal level so much that they are they probably shaped my personality and who I am and what I care
Yeah.
about a little bit, because these are the ones I watched so much growing up. But so, go ahead. Toy Story is your number 5.
Toy Story is my number 5. Loved it. It's classic. I think it's such a fun idea.
Yes.
Oh, the toys live their own
It
lives.
is the most relatable movie for a kid.
I think it is.
Yes,
I
like
think
the idea that
watching it as
your
a
kids,
kid,
it changed my childhood.
yes, it brought up. I think John Lasseter was so good at like exploring this whole imaginative side.
Yes, and tapping into that
childhood.
Yeah, yep, and it was colorful, and it was fun, and it was heartfelt. I will say, to this day, when I watch the original Toy Story, the scene where Buzz jumps from the banister trying to fly out the window and falls, and it
Yes.
plays the Randy Newman song, I cry to this day when I watch that scene.
Good movie.
Yep, that's my number 3. But we'll get
My
there.
number 4,
Okay.
Finding Nemo.
Okay, mine was further down. Yeah, my number 4 is Ratatouille. I like it that much.
Wow, this
Yes.
is really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finding Nemo, great movie. I mean, again, the idea of loss, whatever. They do that a lot.
Yeah, Lost. Like the 4-panel comic.
Your top 3.
Okay. Yeah, Ratatouille. I will say Ratatouille is my number 4.
It
wasn't
3 and 2. We'll go to number 1 in a minute.
Okay. So my Ratatouille was my number 4. It was not that until a year ago or 6 months ago when I rewatched it, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Wow, this is a good movie."
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that. My number 3 is Toy Story. I've already talked about how much I love it.
Yeah.
I
Great movie.
think it's a perfect film. I mean, one of the few. It's
Yeah.
great. My number 2 is Monsters, Inc. The original Monsters, Inc. is my number 2. Also, one I've rewatched recently, and I've seen 1,000 times, and I never care less. Like, I never watched that movie and care any less about the characters than I did the last time I watched it. It's that effective.
I agree. Monsters Inc. is my number 3.
Okay.
You said it was your number 2?
Monsters, Inc. is my number 2.
I agree. Monsters Inc. My number 3. Love it so much. I think it's fantastic. Just, wonderful
Yeah,
movie.
so-
And the soundtrack is excellent.
Randy Newman is my favorite songwriter of all time.
Yes. I think it complements the story so
Yes.
excellently.
It's another one of those things that it taps into that imagination of childhood. And it does it so well, where it takes the idea of monsters in your closet, the simple thing
Yes.
that every kid has, and it turns it into something good. And something you take comfort in,
Yes.
and not something you're scared of. And that is like the best possible thing you can do in a kid's movie.
Just brilliant.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also I will say it is the best casted of any Pixar movie.
Billy Crystal. And
Billy
John Goodman.
Crystal and John Goodman are the best comedic duo
I
ever.
love
and they
it.
have such distinctive and comforting voices, both of them, especially John Goodman has a very comforting voice.
Yes.
And as a kid, before I even knew who he was, I mean, I loved Sully because of John Goodman.
Not to mention, If I Didn't Have You is a bop of a song.
It's such a bop. Randy
Bro.
Newman, man.
My number 2
Okay.
is Up.
Spoiler. My number 1 is Up.
I know.
I'm glad that it made it that high on your
Yes.
list, honestly.
So we'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about my number 1. You already mentioned
Okay, so
my number 1.
okay, what's
We've
your
already
number
both-
1?
My number 1 is Incredibles.
Incredibles, and mine's Up. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So we'll talk about each of those a
Yes.
little bit. Okay.
You talk about it
Okay,
'cause
so
you're
Up.
favorite.
Up is not only my favorite Pixar movie, it's my favorite animated movie, period, and it's one of my top 10 favorite movies ever. I think,
Same with Incredibles.
yeah, I think it is. So the opening scene, first of all, is one of the best just sequences
Yes.
in movie history. No dialogue.
No dialogue,
And it makes
and-
everybody cry within
Yeah.
5 minutes. That's quite the feat. And also, something about the way that they wrote the story. It could have been a lot of things. The idea of a house floating somewhere on an adventure could have been a lot of things. But the fact that they took an old man at the end of his life and a young kid at the beginning of his life, and paired them together, let them explore themes of human life in general, and raising the next generation, and nostalgia, and just like viewing your own life through the upcoming generation, and passing on knowledge, and then just also just like stuff like fatherhood. so well. The way, like, you don't see movies do that. I can't think of many movies where the two main characters are 60 years apart. It just doesn't happen. And they did it perfectly. I mean, they hit it out of the park. And not to mention just all the magical qualities about it. The idea of floating away from your problems, literally, and going on an adventure and meeting your childhood heroes. Also, the whole idea of your childhood heroes don't turn out to be who you thought they were, and you shouldn't idolize them. Love that. I love the scene. One of my favorite scenes is at the end when Russell's father doesn't show up to his badge ceremony, and instead Carl shows up. Man, and then that final shot of the house landing where Carl and Ellie always dreamed it would, and Carl doesn't even know, but it doesn't matter because he's taken on this father role. I mean, I'm gonna cry just talking about it.
It's seriously just such an excellent movie. And here's the thing: this is again the difference between favorite and best. Mm-hmm. I think Up is objectively a better movie than Incredibles.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think they're both perfect movies, like perfect.
I think Up had more impact. I think it had so much more weight,
more emotional weight. I'll give you that, for sure.
But there is that nostalgia attached to it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, all these top six that I've mentioned are perfect. I mean, they're interchangeable almost. Yes. But
I love Incredibles. This is growing up in, pre-MCU era. I love superheroes, and anytime I get the chance to see a superhero movie, it's such a special chance. My favorite movie is Spider-Man. I watched the X-Men growing up, the X-Men movies. I watched the X-Men TV show on whatever cartoon channel it was on at the time, in the mornings before I'd go to school. It was just such a cool thing, and especially obviously I'm seeing this now from this point, like the themes of, like, Robert Parr is like, oh, I'm like going through my middle-age crisis, and like, I'm not the man I used to be. Yeah, I'm not proud of who I am, and I'm ashamed of that. Yeah, for my family. Like that's sad. So and he wants to make that up to them, and he becomes like the hero again. He's like restoring that pride and who he is. That's on this side. As a kid, I'm like, man, this movie just rocks. This is a super cool superhero movie.
Man, some of those scenes stuck with me all through my life. Like just visually, the scene of Mr. Incredible in the insurance job in his cubicle, and the grayed out tones where they just make everything seem dreary. They do such a good job of that. And then the other scene that stuck with me is the scene where the kid on the tricycle rides by and Mr. Incredible like picks up his car or whatever he does. Some of those sequences are just done so well. Like they play with the idea of secret identities and superheroes being anyone around you. And that's just what Pixar's good at, is taking these familiar concepts and milking them for all they're worth in a good way. So
in the best way possible. Love that movie. It's fantastic. Just fun all around. You do your ranking.
Okay, so just read my list?
Yeah, just read your list.
All right, this is my list in order from top to bottom of the best Pixar movies. Up, Monsters, Inc., Toy Story, Ratatouille, WALL-E, The Incredibles. That's tier 1. Tier 2, Toy Story 2, Finding Nemo, Soul, Inside Out, Toy Story 3. Okay, there's my tier 2. Tier 3, A Bug's Life, Cars, Incredibles 2, Brave, and Coco. And then my tier 4, Onward, Monsters University, Toy Story 4, Finding Dory. And then in a tier all by himself is Cars 2. I don't want him to be associated with the rest. And then I haven't seen the other two.
All right. My ranking: Incredibles, Up, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, Toy Story, WALL-E. That's tier 1. Tier 2 is Incredibles, Ratatouille, Inside Out. And I'm going to bump Coco and Soul up there into tier 2. They were in tier 3. Toy Story 2 and 3 are in tier 3 by themselves. And Brave. After that, A Bug's Life, Onwards, Monsters University, Cars, Finding Dory. Unranked is Cars 2 and 3, Good Dinosaur, and Toy Story 4.
Because you haven't seen those.
Because I haven't seen those. Gotcha. Like I said, Incredibles was my favorite Pixar movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love superhero movies. I grew up watching superhero movies. My favorite movie is Spider-Man, Yours is
Almost Famous.
which you will hear about in our next episode of Not Qualified.
Dang right. Hey, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you next time.